Hi, Mr. Hill from MARTiALYOU. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate a basic dive roll technique as we teach it in our program. Now, before we go over the technique of the dive roll, let's cover some of the things we do not want to do. We don't want to let our head hit the ground. We don't want to let any of our joints individually absorb all the impact of our fall. And we don't want to let our legs smack off the ground when we end our roll. Now, in order to avoid all those things, we need to curve our body like the surface of a ball as we roll forward. So to do that, let's start from a kneeling position with our dominant leg forward, non-dominant on the ground, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take both my hands and place them on the ground to the inside of that dominant leg. Now what this does is it causes my upper torso, my trunk, to twist inward and my dominant shoulder to be more forward. I'm going to start my roll on this dominant shoulder and end the roll on my non-dominant side hip. Now when I put my hands down, it causes my back to curve like the surface of that ball. The first thing I'm going to do is I want to avoid hitting my head on the ground, so I'm going to tuck my head and look behind me, maybe even through this arm and this leg. This protects my head. Now, the next part, I'm going to start shifting my weight on the dominant leg. I shift my weight and I emphasize putting the shoulder to the ground first. As I push my weight over onto the front leg, I'm going to pick myself up with the rear leg, and then I'm going to roll forward while I tuck my head and avoid it from hitting the ground. Shoulder to hip. Now, let's look at this roll from the front. Same exact thing. I'm going to put my dominant leg forward, which happens to be my right, take both hands, place them to the inside on the ground, causing my torso to twist inward and my dominant side shoulder to point forward. I'm going to shift my weight to the front leg, tuck my head under and look behind me to avoid my head clunking off the ground. Push over, turn, tuck, go forward, tuck this back leg, leave my dominant leg forward to be my stopping leg, and if I have enough momentum, I will use this leg to pick myself up into a standing position. Let's look at it from the other side. Hands down, dominant leg forward, tuck, shift your weight, roll, dominant leg in front to stop you, rear leg underneath. Once you get comfortable doing the dive roll from a kneeling position, you'll want to start practicing from a higher level. So let's go to a standing position, dominant leg slightly forward, non-dominant back, and then we're simply going to lower ourselves to get our hands to touch the floor. So we end up leaning forward, lowering our hands to the floor, and then the same thing we did before, we're just going to push forward, tuck, and roll. And if we have enough momentum, we can use that dominant leg to stand right back up. From the rear, dominant leg forward, lean, both hands to the floor, tuck and push forward and roll. With enough momentum, you stand right back up. Now once you're confident in rolling on the ground from a standing position, we need to go to the next level by diving to the ground from a standing position. One of the easiest ways to do this is to place an object in front of you on the floor that forces you to leap or dive over it. Now technically the dive roll is similar, but now we have one more variable. We have to control our fall at the same time. To control our fall, we need to build up the strength in our arms so that when we go forward, we catch the ground with our hands and our arms and slowly lower ourselves as we roll forward. So instead of just being passive in our dive roll going forward on the ground as we're from a lower position, when we dive, we have to be more active and lower ourselves to control the fall. So as I lean forward with my dominant leg, my hands are going to go on the ground behind the object, but still torqued to the inside of my dominant leg. I'm going to leap over, jumping off my feet, and lowering myself to the ground with my arms and going forward. Same roll, just a small variable in controlling your fall to the ground. Let's take a look from the other side. Same exact technique. From the front, from the back. Now once you're comfortable diving over an object, let's increase the challenge by making the object higher. Once you're confident diving over high objects, let's practice diving over longer distances. Place two nice soft objects on the ground with a little distance between them. Get a little momentum, and let's dive forward and over them. Back, forward, and dive. As you get better, increase the height and the distance, and keep on practicing. And that is the dive roll.